They've been waiting in eternity.
A shiver ran the length of Wujuo's spine and settled in the tip of her tail. If Shuangwei truly was her twin spirit, as she had long suspected, could one be called to lead and not the other? Wujuo understood that, like Shuangwei, she'd require ample assistance, but where was her ready and willing team of experts? Wujuo joined the waning prayer of thanks to the water god. We are stronger of voice together than we would be apart, she construed. We must now be stronger of body as well. Chu Shi met Wujuo at the riverbank as planned. They climbed aboard Sube, who'd been napping dreamily all day. As the alligator began her arduous swim, Mama called from ashore, waving a 6-digit paw goodbye.
Remember, Wujuo, it's what you possess and not what you lack that makes you special.
Wujuo waved back, then instinctively reached for her talisman. Lacking, indeed. The charm was nowhere to be found. Upon reflection, Wujuo realized it had been missing for quite a while, at least since the alligators had run aground. Had a miracle brought them safely to Monkey Kingdom? Or was it simply a fortuitous blend of Wujuo's own confidence and her dear friend's sympathies? The answer, not a simple one, awaited Wujuo up the river, at the place she'd come to know as home. Shuangwei was sitting calmly by the moat when Sube docked. Though Wujuo had braced herself for discord, she was greeted with familial warmth. As Shuangwei threw her loving arms around Wujuo, the missing talisman dropped from her monkey fingers. Wujuo held her breath as Shuangwei explained, "Father's messengers brought it to me early this morning. Word has it, rebel forces have begun to gather in Monkey City. According to the Prime Minister, the dragon's claw is their emblem." Wujuo ran her paw across the talisman. Did the dragon's claw cut both ways? Were there others plotting rebellion, or was she alone the force the palace feared? It seemed highly unlikely, since she'd not yet begun to fight, hadn't so much as drawn up a battle plan. But how could anyone know of the crusade in which she'd engaged, when she'd barely spoken of it aloud? "There are secret agents in the fortress now, Wujuo," Shuangwei whispered into her pointed ear. "You must beware. It's no longer just the two of us against the world." Wujuo's doubts were now assuaged. Regardless of all else, she and Shuangwei were still sisters under the skin. They had been made so by the hand of God, quite literally. No mere monkey would be allowed to break their sacred bond. So Wujuo gave a sweeping account of her recent expedition, both the physical tour and the spiritual journey she had taken. She disclosed that the map of her world had been irrevocably altered with this but brief trip downriver. Shuangwei's response came as a shocking surprise. "Oh, then it's true," the monkey princess exclaimed, and before Wujuo could interject, she continued, "No need for justification, sister dear. I should like to free the slaves myself, and had hoped to do so after father's passing, but the Prime Minister has warned me against rash actions. He urges a smooth segue, a conservative entry plan, so that we might dispel the rumors of uprising." "Are you not leery of the source of such rumors? Mightn't that source be the very one who issues such warning?" the riled Wujuo interrupted. "Let us not argue a matter upon which we agree," Shuangwei adjured. "There are other important factors to consider. Were an actual uprising to occur, an assassination attempt could well follow, which, if successful, would leave the throne to my senseless brother. And can we not concur that such an event would be hazardous to all living creatures?" Shuangwei's murder was certainly not among Wujuo's desires. She loved the princess dearly and took pride in her burgeoning diplomatic skills. Wujuo was also convinced that the cats would fare better, much better verily, under Shuangwei's reign than at the paws of Prince Boyao. The princess went on, as politicians are apt to do. "I'd be pompous to reckon myself torchbearer of Monkey Kingdom, the sole beacon of truth and triumph. For many a moon, cats have served monkeys well, and now we
must learn to fend for ourselves. If you can teach the cats to rally for their independence, I'll gladly educate the monkeys in self-sufficiency."
Bourgeois had gone agape, revealing her astonishment.
"Lift your jaw, darling sister."
Shuangwei chuckled.
"Your incredulity insults. Did you presume me to be otherwise inclined?"
"You stand to lose more than half your subjects," the confounded bourgeois replied.
"Let those who wish to be mine come to me. Those who do not may stay behind."
Shuangwei had taken easily to Buddhism, which she was now practicing with guidance from the palace monk. Being pure of heart, she made a far better student than the rest of the royal family, who had grown spoiled from the very privileges Shuangwei was denied. "Behind," Bourgeois sniggered from her rearward vantage point. "My people have been left behind too far and too long already. The time has come for us to move ahead."
"Your commitment is admirable,"
Shuangwei responded sincerely.
"but you've misunderstood my intent. It is more selfish and less greedy than you might suspect. Please, allow me to elaborate."
Bourgeois relaxed her stance and politely took a seat. Shuangwei sat down beside her and humbly gave explication.
"I have no wish to leave this lovely island, and while the fortress might be cold and dank, it's the only home I've ever known. But the Prime Minister insists I move to Monkey City and inhabit the palace after I'm crowned. I'd much prefer that the other monkeys resettle here, where we might found a new society, one that can exist without slavery, though I sincerely doubt they'd do so of their own volition."
"And if I were able to coax them?" suggested Bourgeois, without the slightest hint of how she might do so.
"I would be forever indebted, and not only to you, but to all of catkind,"
Shuangwei answered graciously. "Then it shall be done," Bourgeois replied in a sonorous tone that seemed to arise from the great beyond. She was quite certain that someone or something was guiding her, speaking through her, but she felt more alone, more frightened than ever before. Shuangwei sensed this and gently drew Bourgeois into her embrace.
"All I ask,"
the princess whispered,
"is that you take care. I'm not yet queen, and until I am, we must both answer to the king's advisors. They'll have your head if they suppose the slightest hint of change, let alone a revolution. Speak to no one of our plans. Father's spies abound."
There were spies indeed, and having detected Bourgeois and Jushi in Monkey City, they'd informed the Prime Minister, acting ruler until Shuangwei's conversion was complete. The Prime Minister enforced a curfew, barring all cats from appearing in public, unless they were on their way to work or back. Should the curfew be broken, public appearance would again be allowed, in the form of a town square hanging. Bourgeois and Jushi cancelled their proposed weekly trips to Monkey City. Still, they managed to resume their mission. There was no curfew for alligators, and so Sube went in their stead, taking small loads on a frequent basis. The fort's expanding staff produced an abundance of scrap. More monkeys had been sent from the palace to help Shuangwei learn to entertain, and hence more cats followed to serve them. The fortress was suddenly as crowded as a seaside inn during summer's peak. To maintain order, Shuangwei appointed Bourgeois major domo. It was a job the cat felt ill-suited for, considering her current pursuits, but she understood that her debt to the royals must be paid. They had housed her these many years, wittingly or not, in great comfort. Such a gift could not be disregarded. Bourgeois vowed to keep her emerging ambitions suppressed. She mulled and brooded over painstaking plans, communicating them only to Shuangwei. The two met nightly in a private chamber, where a deaf-mute lady-in-waiting continually scoured the closets and corners for spies. Shuangwei's utopian agenda was slowly taking shape, though her wishes were often at odds with those of her